Hello to everybody on IG and YouTube. It's me, Makeda Valletta, once again, back again, also known as the Renaissance Amazon. So again, if you are on YouTube and you don't follow me on IG, you can follow me on IG at the_Renaissance_Amazon_81. And if you're on IG and you don't follow me on YouTube, be sure to follow me at the Renaissance Amazon, because I don't always post the same things in both places. So it's good to follow me in both places. And any IG live I do is always archived on YouTube, because I do on YouTube. Okay. So today, if you're on YouTube, you know what this is, what the title of this is about. You probably don't know what I'm going to talk about. So the title of this is The Untold Story of the Chicken Sandwich, okay? The Untold Story of the Chicken Sandwich. And I'm going to touch on a few different things, okay? If you've been watching my videos lately, you've been seeing me do videos on immigration complexities. I highly recommend you take a look at that video that I did, I think, last week, called Immigration Complexities. Also, I did a video called Respect the People of Turtle Island. And I've done another video on the legacy of Afro-Americans. I will repost them all below this YouTube video when I'm done. I suggest to check those out, because this is some of the background on what I'm about to talk about, okay? Also, a lot of you have been running around talking about Chick-fil-A and Popeye's chicken sandwiches. It took me a while to even know what was going on, because I'm not a trendy person. I don't know, like, the fucking waves of bullshit that people be on. I don't be paying attention to that. I don't think it's that important, and I'm usually clueless. And I was clueless for a while. And so it's to my understanding that Popeyes came out with a chicken sandwich, and there were people waiting everywhere to eat it, and mostly black people, at least what I saw, looking silly. But the thing is that if you follow my work as well, you also know that I'm a sports nutritionist. I'm a holistic sports nutritionist. I'm a sports nutritionist, but I'm an overall nutritionist when it comes to health, period, okay? Health and longevity. And I am an exercise physiologist, a sports nutritionist, a strength and conditioning coach. So I'm a health and fitness professional, okay? And my approach is very holistic. And so I was reading somebody's comment on YouTube. So I would never eat Popeyes or Chick-fil-A, okay, because it's low quality food, okay. Fast food, the thing people don't understand about cheap food, okay, and people complain that Whole Foods is too expensive, and I'm gonna talk more about this. I'm gonna do a more in-depth video on this on my other page, The Body Scientist 81. But just a real quick, brief thing, you know, food that's closer to the source and healthier and organic is more expensive, because the farmers who decide to grow GMOs and use pesticides and sell you sick shit, you know, from the commercial food industry, they get subsidized by the government. So they get subsidized by the government and to do that work. So therefore they can sell the food much cheaper. Also, they're cheap labor, okay? So there was a story that a friend of mine brought, and I always talk about my background. I didn't talk video, but the other videos that I mentioned in the beginning, I'll talk about my background. Not to be redundant, but for those of you who don't know, I talk about the fact that my dad was a civil rights leader. He was in the front lines of the civil rights movement. My dad was a professor of Afro-American studies, even though he had no degree. He was kicked out of Florida A&M for being involved in the civil rights movement, but then he became a professor at UMass Amherst and one of the founders of the first Afro-American Studies Department, okay? He was a Pan-Africanist. So I grew up around black scholars, not just Afro-American ones, but my uncle, who was Jamaican, he wrote Ready for Revolution, and my dad wrote it afterward. Ready for Revolution is an autobiography of Stokely Carmichael, AKA Kwame Ture. My uncle, who wrote the autobiography, went to Howard University with Kwame Ture, who was the leader of SNCC. He was Trinidadian, okay? And my uncle, who is Jamaican, always talks about how back then, when Caribbeans came to America, they aligned with Afro-Americans, right? He always talks about this, right? And he gets upset about now that Caribbeans don't do that. He always puts Caribbeans in their place, who think they're better than Afro-Americans and who make these comments. And I hear these comments all of the time, okay? I get so tired of it. Even, I saw this Nigerian girl who I follow on Instagram. I really like her work. She dances a lot. She's a really dope dancer. I think she's funny. I think she's cool. She's beautiful. She posted a video the other day about what's going on in South Africa. And she started off by saying, oh man, like, we expect this in America, but Africa? She's like, I mean, come on, son. And as soon as she said that, right, I wrote under her thing, I quoted her, right? I said, oh, you expect this in America, but not in Africa. And I'm like, Africa's been had those problems. I don't know if you guys know what's happening in South Africa, but there's so-called xenophobia, and they're attacking Nigerians. They say they're attacking Nigerians, but when I saw it on TV, I saw them attacking like people from Bangladesh and white people. So I don't really fully understand it, but there's some xenophobia and they want them out. The articles seem to concentrate on Nigerians, but when I saw it on TV, I saw all kinds of people that were being attacked, right? And this girl was shocked, like, oh, and it's like, first of all, Africa's been had that problem. How do you think Afro-Americans ended up, how Afro-Americans, our ancestors, our African ancestors, because a lot of us have Native American, if not all of us have Native American ancestors too, but our African ancestors got here because Africans, okay, participated in the slave trade. It wasn't just that white people came and snatch Africans up. No, Africans said, here, take them, okay? Give me money, take them. Africans had no problem with the shit. They don't, the whole idea of we're black and united, that's an American idea, okay? That is not an African ideology. Africans do not hold the ideology that just because you're black, you're my brother, you're my sister. They do not. That's something that comes from North America in particular. And it's something that has affected the rest of the black world. Afro-Americans have helped Afro-Latinos get their identity, okay? Because a lot of them are lost out here in these streets. And a lot of them started to really gain that identity from being around Afro-Americans. And this is the reason why I love Cuba. Because Cubans have enough education and enough sense. And I'm not talking about the ones in Miami, not the racist bastards in Miami. I'm talking about the ones who live in Cuba. If you go to Cuba, Cuba is very black. Cuba is way blacker than the United States, okay? And the Cubans in Cuba, they have enough education and enough fucking sense to know that Afro-Americans are really special and important. They like us, they respect us, and they study us in our movements, okay? Because Afro-Cubans are their black identity is very strong. They're not lost and confused on that shit like a lot of other Latin American countries are. You know what I'm saying? So, so when she said that, and I said to her, and I said, well, Africa's been that way. How do you think the slave trade happened, right? So her response to me was, oh, but that's home for me, right? And I said, okay, and this is home for me. And then she said, I don't think you understand. I said, I do understand. I don't think you understand. And this is what I'm saying. And then after that, I got attacked by like 20 people for like the next 2 days, right? Of people who were attacking me like, oh, America's not so great. And I'm like, first of all, it wasn't about whether America's great. First of all, I disagree with that. I don't want to live anywhere else. I'm not moving out anywhere else. This is my homeland. This is where I was born and raised. This is where my parents and my grandparents and my great-grandparents were all raised. This is where all my ancestors, for far back as I can trace, were buried, okay? My family has put in the work, okay? I'm more American than any fucking white person, so no white person can check me and tell me what's American and what's not, because I'm more American than any white boy, okay? And my family has fought in every war in this country, starting from the Revolutionary War, okay? And so to me, no, this is my nation. I care about what happens in the United States, right? And so this is my home. And if I say that this is my home, I shouldn't be attacked by people. I shouldn't have other Africans coming in the conversation telling me, oh, tell that to the white man then. And it's like, dude, why don't you, instead of you worrying about what I need to tell a white man, because number one, you don't know what I tell white people. I tell white people all the time, okay? I was raised by a black man who told me when I was a little girl, you know, my dad used to get into intellectual conversations with white people all the fucking time. And I remember being at a gambling game as a kid, okay? And my dad got into an argument. We were in the press box because my dad was pressed. And he got into an argument with some white dude about some shit. And I remember when we left, my dad said to me, Michaela, he said, I don't care Whenever you are around white people, you always have something to say. You always have something to say. Don't ever let them make you feel like you don't have shit to say. My dad used to constantly say, I'm not intimidated by these white boys. And if most of them had to live in a black man's shoes for a day, they would kill themselves. And my daddy said this shit all the fucking time, right? So I wasn't raised to tiptoe around fucking white people, all right? But so I don't need an African telling me what to do and what to tell white people, first of all. Secondly, what I said to him was, why don't you worry about telling your African brethren to stop worshiping white Jesus, okay? To stop bleaching your damn skin. What the fuck? And if you want to start dissing America, but there's tons of Africans over here. There's tons of people coming here from all over the world. And I find it gets on my nerves when you have people who might live in this country, but then they're dissing the country. You know? Why aren't you in your homeland making it better? Because you know what? Like the last video I did on the complexities of immigration, I had some people writing comments on my videos like, oh, well, you must not understand, you don't understand the horrible conditions in which they're coming from. No, bitch, you don't understand. Do you understand how bad it was in Jim Crow American segregated South? Do you know? Because my dad grew up in that shit. My grandmother grew up in that shit. And I heard stories about that. That was a fucking nightmare. But you didn't see Afro-Americans running out the country by the buckets, putting their burden and their problems to other people. You didn't see thousands or millions of Afro-Americans jumping on a boat and going to the Caribbean and stressing their system. They already don't have enough resources for their people. You didn't see us doing that. Instead, we stayed here and toughed it out. And yes, I love all the people who say that those comments so I can delete you. If you think my life is boring, then get the fuck off of it and stop watching it. So many losers on the internet. So many fucking losers who I would never speak to. And just go, because I'm gonna block you anyway when I get off here. The thing is that, see, I lost my train of thought. That's why I be reading the comments sometimes. Yes, okay. So I find it interesting that whenever I say that I'm American or I'm proud of being American, right? America doesn't have a perfect history. America has done a lot of fucked up shit. Yes, it has. But what country does have a perfect history? Please tell me one country, okay? Please tell me one fucking country that has a flawless history, that doesn't have something that they need to be ashamed of. Please fucking tell me. Because you know what? I've never been to the Dominican Republic, and I have no fucking desire to go to the Dominican Republic. I grew up in New York City around Dominicans. I'm cool with them. I have no problem with them. But I can't stand the race problems they have in their country. I can't stand how they treat Haitians. So fuck the Dominican Republic. I'm never going there and spending no goddamn money, right? But I see black Dominicans, like Amara La Negra, saying, I'm Dominican and I'm proud. And I'm like, wow, because you know, Dominican Republic doesn't love you. Dominican Republic doesn't love you in your black skin, but she's still proud to be Dominican. So if she can be proud to be Dominican, as ignorant as they are, no offense, but a lot of Dominicans are really fucking ignorant. If she can be proud to be Dominican, as ignorant as she is, why should I be proud to be Afro-American? My people have accomplished great things, and I actually come from a family of fighters who helped accomplish these things. So not only was my dad a civil rights leader and an Afro-American scholar, but my mom's a union organizer, okay? And I always talk about this. She worked for the UAW, which is the United Auto Workers. She represented, she didn't really represent a lot of auto workers. She represented people that worked at, clerical workers at Barnard and Columbia University. She represented people at the Museum of Modern Art. She represented people at the Women's Feminist Press, the Union Theological Seminary. And then she would go to Detroit a lot to do stuff with auto workers, and she was involved in that, but that wasn't, her locals weren't auto workers. And then my mom became an international labor rep. She counsels the presidents of other unions, and then now she's retired, but she still works. She's still a mentor. She's still involved in politics, okay? So that's who raised me. And I didn't grow up at a distance. My brother and I were in the office with my mom when she was organizing strikes. We were on those picket lines in the wintertime. We saw the long hours she worked. Organizing people is a very fucking hard job. That's why I have respect for organizers. People like Barack Obama, who came to Chicago, lived in the fucking wild hundreds and walked around and did shit. This wasn't even his motherfucking city, because I live in Chicago right now and I'm not going over there to organize anything. Okay? So a lot of people can talk. A lot of people can talk, but are you doing the organizing work, right? Do you know what that is? Okay, so saying all that to say, because of that sum total of all that, I'm proud to be an Afro-American. Now, the issue with the chicken sandwich and the immigration, right? Getting to it. There was a story on NPR, right? There was a story on NPR, and I will post it below my YouTube video. and it was about this chicken factory in Mississippi. Okay, it was about the chicken factory in Mississippi that the woman. I want to slap this woman. Actually, I would love to publicly debate and embarrass this fucking white woman who did this shit. Okay, but I'm gonna tell you about this. So there's this chicken factory that got raided by ICE. Of course, they had a bunch of undocumented workers. They got raided by ICE. And now she's like, I guess she calls herself trying to defend them, right? But in the midst of trying to defend, like, she's like, oh, you know, they're just trying to make money to feed their families. And they're doing back-breaking work that nobody wants to do. You know, they're performing the same repetitive motion about 6,000 times a day. They're amputating parts of their body. They're having amputations from the speed and the work. And she talks about how in the 90s, you know, two things that happened in the 90s. One of these I already knew, okay? One of them is that the commercial food industry, this is the reason why I always tell people, do not fucking eat food from the commercial food industry. If you follow my other YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81, you will see me talk about that all the time. You will learn everything you need to know about this. It is critically important, okay? It's your body, not mine. It's your health, not mine. I don't want to get cancer. I don't want to get heart disease. I don't want to be all fucked up. That's a priority to me. If it's a priority to you, I highly recommend that you listen to my videos on my other page, Body Scientist 81, and you learn what the fuck is up. Because a lot of people aren't going to tell you what I'm telling you, okay? So, with that being said, in the 90s, the demand for chicken, because of McDonald's and the Chicken McNugget, the demand for chicken skyrocketed through the motherfucking roof. Not just chicken breasts in particular. Because McDonald's and a lot of these fucking new age, so-called healthy, only want to use the breast. Okay, I only like the breast actually, but that's not good because now you need a mass production of chicken so that every McDonald's around the fucking country can have nuggets, chicken McNuggets. It's just the breast. So here comes the mass production of chicken, right? And when you mass produce food, I don't care whether it's an animal or a plant. When you mass produce it, you get way lower nutritional value and you get lots of toxicity. Okay, because the chickens are raised in inhumane conditions. They're being fed bullshit, so they're sick, so they give them antibiotics, you know. So you already have that fucking problem, which is why you shouldn't be eating that chicken. Then you have the compounded issue of the factories. So what this woman said is in the 90s, she mentioned that demand for chicken nuggets, right? This is how it relates to you guys and these stupid chicken sandwiches. But she also talks about how that plant in Mississippi had all Afro-American workers. And in the 90s, they had negotiated, and I believe it was with the, I think it was with the union, but maybe a union wasn't present, okay? I think I have to check that fact. I thought it was with the union, but it may not have been with the union, but regardless, they negotiated good wages and health care, right? Health benefits. And the chicken, right when that was negotiated, the chicken company, the chicken factory, whatever, busted all that shit up, got rid of all the black workers, and bust in a bunch of undocumented Spanish-speaking immigrant workers to come work at that plant. And so I am tired of this narrative, okay? Because this is forced down our throats, and I have been talking about this in my past few videos. It is this narrative that immigrants are not taking the jobs of Americans, and I'm going to say Afro-Americans, okay? Because I'm saying Americans because I'm American, but a lot of times when people say American, people think white people. But there are Afro-Americans too. I'm American. I don't always have to add Afro in front of it. Afro or not, I'm motherfucking American, right? But because people want to have this conversation, like, you know, if you have an issue or feel like something needs to be done about immigration, they automatically think that you're in the white category and you support Donald Trump. No, Black Americans have a unique perspective and things to say about it. And I feel like it's completely fucking ignored. The history in this country, the black man, the black woman has always been put on the bottom, period, point, fucking blank. One thing that my dad told me, and I'm telling you, he was a Pan-Africanist, and he has been telling me that Afro-Americans fought to change the laws in this country that was not allowing black immigrants to come here. There were laws against Africans and Afro-Caribbeans coming to this country. Afro-Americans fought to change that. Afro-Americans did a lot to help black immigrants, right? But and not just blacks, also Chinese, you know, and every single group, once they got into this country and got in good, they turned on Afro-Americans. didn't care about if they could fit in the white box, they did. They didn't give a fuck about what was going on with us. And my dad told me this, and he told me not even to really talk about it because as Afro-Americans, we get penalized because, of course, people care more about immigrants' rights than they do about Black Americans, right? But when you speak up on it, you get considered like, oh, something's wrong with you. People attack you, and it's happened to me. But we constantly get this narrative fed to us that, oh, immigrants aren't taking the jobs of Americans. Immigrants are doing jobs. Oh, they're only doing low-wage jobs that nobody wants to do, right? That no Americans want to do that. They always keep reciting that. But then you hear the story about this chicken plant that was all Afro-American in the 90s in Mississippi. And then they get pushed away because they want fair wages and benefits. And they negotiated that. But the company would rather bust in these, I think they're Mexicans, you know, to work for nothing. And then people say, oh, well, Americans, well, Afro-Americans or Americans won't do that, won't work that hard. No, we ain't working that motherfucking hard for 50 cents, okay? That's how you stay a slave. Slavery is over. Mississippi was a slave state, okay? It's a very Black state. It was a slave state. People in Mississippi, it's one of the poorest states. And people have been getting robbed in Mississippi forever, okay? So they're owed something. All of us Afro-Americans are owed something. We have been forced out of the South, a lot of us who come from the South, left our land in the South, and there's a lot of wealth in that. My dad is from St. Augustine, Florida. That's a big tourist town. When his family left Florida, he said, we never thought the South was going to change. So we stopped paying the taxes on our land. We said, fuck that shit. We never thought we were going to go back down there again. And now it's worth a lot of money. So there's a lot of Afro-Americans that have lost shit because of white terrorism. So an immigrant doesn't need to tell us, like on my page, my Immigration and Complexities video, where this person's like, well, you must not know that what they face. Fuck you, okay? Because you know what we face? Do you know what we have faced? Do you know the history of this country at all? That's the shit I don't like. I don't like the disrespect. It's one thing to have a conversation about how we can help each other. But if somebody is telling you, okay, we don't have enough shit for our people. We don't have enough food, enough resources, enough jobs, or whatever the fuck it is. Because Cuba is not going to let people just come in here by the millions. Cuba makes sure their people have what they need first. So now if you have people coming and undermining what we have negotiated, now you guys are responsible for lowering the wages. And now we get caught lazy. And a friend of mine had just told me, and that's fucked up, because being Black in America, we've been fighting. Now we got to have immigrants coming here and undermining us and getting us caught lazy. And my grandmother was born in 1921, okay? She passed away in 2015. My grandmother was born in 1921, okay? 94 years old when she died. My grandmother, 2015. So my grandmother used to always talk about certain things that have happened over the years where immigrants, could be Chinese immigrants, whatever, were given certain business owners, or given certain things, resources over Afro-Americans. And she used to talk about this. And a lot of times this gets swept under the rug, and people say it's not true. But below my YouTube video, below this YouTube video, I'm going to post the NPR story. I'm going to post a couple other videos where there's one lecture at Emory University by a white woman who spends about an hour talking about the African-American perspective and reaction to immigration and deportation, and then like 1909 to 1939, okay? But she really covers a larger span than that. And she talks about all the times that Afro-Americans have fought for not just Black and brown people, but other groups of immigrants, how they've all, they would turn on us, how at some points, Afro-Americans said there was how we felt about it. Afro-Americans noticed that deportation, okay, that a lot of the deportation was heavily on the people of color, and then the white people who get deported were the ones who sided with us, and the Afro-Caribbeans and the Africans. A lot of times people get deported back then. There were ones who were allies of Afro-Americans, would speak up on our behalf, they would deport them, okay? Same thing with white people. There are many, many stories, and this is cited. If you watch this YouTube video that I post below, if you watch the YouTube video that I post below on here with this Emory University lecture, she goes through actual facts and dates and situations, okay? She also talks about how Langston Hughes was deported from Mexico. Who knew, okay? So there were Black people who had moved to Mexico or had, when I say Black people, I mean Black Americans, who had moved to Mexico or to Europe who got deported, right? But the message that was sent, and Mexico sent it back because they didn't want more black people. You know, they were fine with white Americans. They didn't want black Americans, right? So Mexico also has had a bias towards Afro-Americans. And all this time, you know, me being from New York City, I didn't grow up around Mexicans. I grew up around Puerto Ricans and Dominicans mostly. And we got along, right? But I couldn't understand why blacks and Mexicans in LA couldn't get along. I'm like, what the fuck are they fighting about? To me, we're united. You know, I talk about Afro-Indigenous people all the time. You know, I have Native American blood, I have African blood, and a lot of Mexicans who come here are Native Americans. You do have white Mexicans too, you have white, Native, whatever, but a lot of them are indigenous, right? So to me, we're one and the same. We should be more united. That's how I see it. I never understood why do blacks and Mexicans in LA fight? Why do blacks and Mexicans in Chicago have a problem? But my Chicago friends have told me, it's not us. The Mexicans don't like us. And I've heard this a couple of times, right? So that made me upset because I'm like, what the fuck is that about? And then another friend of mine told me about the trucking industry. And if anybody works in the trucking industry, you can let me know. He said that there were loads that people might pick up for $1,600, right? Let's just say that the going rate for picking up this load was $1,600, right? Now you have undocumented immigrant workers who will come take it for $1,000. So the other truck driver's like, why the fuck we take that for $1,000? That shit is worth $1,600. So now you guys are undermining and you're causing wages to drop. You're causing wages to stay at the same place. And then when I hear people just constantly, well, we need stuff. Okay, that's selfish though. At least if you're going to come here, right? Let's say you have people from whatever country, you know, Haitians, Dominicans, Brazilians, Colombians, Mexicans, I don't fucking know, right? If you come here, why not fall in line with what we have organized? You want to come over here with your desperation and undermine, like we're not already struggling. I don't like the fact that people think that because you're American, you are okay. Because you're American, you're not struggling. Because you're American, your money's forever. Nah, motherfuckers struggle over here too. There's people over here too living in a war zone. Where do we run to? We can't run back to our home country because you know why? Our home country is America. I'm not sitting here living in America saying my homeland is over there and I can go home whenever I want. No, my family and my investment is here. So I care what happens here. And there are plenty of people who are running out of their country when stuff is tough. And they want to run over here. But what about staying in your country and make the shit better? How can your country get better if y'all all leave? What would America be right now if all the Afro-Americans ran out or whatever? What would it be? You know what I'm saying? So when I think about that, it's like, and if somebody's telling you, yo, you're putting a burden on our system, how dare you continue to act entitled? And when I started finding out how much this undermining is happening, and it's actually very well documented, of a lot of undocumented immigrant workers, they don't give a fuck about what the plight of Afro-Americans are. They will come over here and work below what we have negotiated as being acceptable. And in this interview on NPR, this woman, Alexa Campbell, she pissed me off because the interviewer said to her, oh, so basically they replaced all the black workers with undocumented workers so that they could exploit them, basically. Like, these undocumented workers are allowing slavery to continue, right? So he said this, and she said, well, that's part of it, but really, you know, Americans don't want to do that job. I mean, they have too many options, and you know, why would they want to do such work in dangerous conditions? It's like, you dumb bitch. That's the whole thing of having a union. Nobody should be working in those conditions. Nobody should be working in those conditions. Not immigrants and not Americans. But if you had a union, and the South is so anti-union, there's one thing I don't like about the South, and one reason why I don't want to live down there. They're so violently anti-union down South. But it is because of the unions, okay? Labor Day just passed a few days ago. It is because of the unions that we have a minimum wage. It is because of unions that we have an 8-hour workday and overtime. It's because of the unions that we have a 40-hour work week, okay? Child labor laws. That's because of the unions, all right? And Elizabeth Warren said, in order to have a strong middle class, we can't do it without the unions, and this is absolutely fucking true. Without a union, you have no protection, you have no one to stand up for you, no one to negotiate on your behalf, okay? None of that. And what I learned from watching my mom, again, she's very successful in organizing contracts and getting what she wanted for her workers. But it took solidarity. It took everybody saying, we're going on strike. None of us are going to cross the picket line. If they could just bust in a bunch of workers to cross the picket line, they're called scabs, then they would never get what they want. They would be unsuccessful. And so my question is, what is the story of the black people who worked in that chicken plant, who all got fired? Where are they now? What is their story? Nobody cares. Instead, this white woman wants to keep fighting and arguing about, oh, but the immigrants that got removed because of the ICE raid. She's like, oh, but they're just trying to feed their family, and we're trying to feed, and they're trying to feed their family, and in turn they're feeding our family. And it's like, no, again, you dumb bitch. You shouldn't be eating food from the commercial food industry. Okay? Nobody should be feeding their family chicken from the commercial food industry because it is low quality, disease causing food. It's not fucking healthy. This is why I tell people, I've been telling people since I've been grown, I've only get my food, I go to the farmers markets. Go to your local farmers markets, get produce that is local and that is in season. You can get meats, beef, chicken, pork, fucking venison, bison, rabbit meat, whatever it is you eat. You can get that shit from the farmers markets. You know what I'm saying? Support your local farmers, sustainable agriculture, using the commercial food industry. It not only is it, slavery, but in the food that we eat, the conditions in which the food that we eat, the conditions in which it's grown matters. And it's not just the chicken and the animals. It's also the plants, right? Because there's lots of monocropping, again, I'm not going to get into all the science in this video because this is not the page where I get really scientific. But my other page, The Body Scientist 81 on YouTube, I get very scientific and I get more in depth into this, and I have videos where I've discussed this. But the commercial food industry, getting vegetable foods in the commercial food industry is equally as bad. They're GMO, they're sprayed up with pesticides, they're irrigated, they're old. And I remember being in high school and seeing indigenous Mexican strawberry pickers protesting in front of supermarkets in New York because they were getting cancer in the throat and shit from the chemicals that were being sprayed. And back then, I wasn't even thinking about how that affects our health. If the people who are picking the strawberries are getting cancer from the chemicals, what the fuck do you think it does to us? So this is the reason why the answer is nobody should be supporting the commercial food industry. And you definitely are supporting the commercial food industry when you're running to Popeyes eating fucking stupid ass Popeyes chicken sandwiches. That is the lowest quality. Again, in order for them, and then people getting mad when Popeyes runs out of chicken. This is the reason for the commercial food industry. It's the demand that Americans have for chicken. And specifically chicken breast, but chicken period. That demand. You're going to go to a fast food place and you want some cheap shit. Well, that's going to cause mass production of sick animals. That's going to cause them wanting to hire workers that they don't have to pay, who are stressed the fuck out, who are cutting off their hands while they're cutting your chicken. Does that sound good? So the answer to that, whether it's from a labor standpoint or whether it's from a health standpoint, avoiding food from the commercial food industry. But the fact that in the trucking industry, in the food industry, you have all these undocumented immigrant workers who are willing to work for pennies, and this white woman who was basically defending it, basically, she sounds like a slave master who at this, at the brink of the Civil War was like, oh no, we can't end slavery because how will we pick our crops? We need to have slaves. How can we pick our crops? That's what the fuck people sound like. Where she's over here, instead of talking about the fact that these undocumented workers came in and undermined black workers who negotiated to have fair wages and health insurance and benefits, and these undocumented workers came in and undermined that, and all you can do is talk about it's unfair because they're trying to feed their family. Bitch, what about the black people that are trying to feed their families? She didn't care, okay? And then at no point in there did she say that, talk about the fact that nobody should be working in those conditions. Instead of saying nobody wants to do that work, nobody should be doing that work. It doesn't have to be like that. You can slaughter chickens and cut chickens up without cutting off your hands and working in such unsanitary, stressful conditions. It's fucking possible. How about we talk about that shit? So I just had to add that because I'm just tired of the fact that everybody acts like if you don't go along with this immigration narrative, that people say immigrants aren't taking the jobs of Americans. You know, immigrants aren't. Yeah, that's not true. Okay, that's not true, and there's stats on that. That's number one. Number two, it's not just low-income jobs. It's not just low-income jobs because I know a woman in Chicago who is, well, I probably shouldn't have said that, but she's a doctor. She's Afro-American and Japanese-American from California. She has a lawsuit against, I don't know if it's Persian doctors. It's not Albanian. I can't remember. It might be Persian or something. Doctors who were discriminating against Black doctors. Okay, it might have been, and she was saying that for years she couldn't go home for holidays. They were just totally discriminatory. And she said when they get in the hospital, they hire all of their own people. Okay, so this is not a low wage. This is on the medical level. Then I talked about this before in my immigration complexities video. How many immigrants, like all the immigrant groups that come here, open up businesses and they don't hire Americans? There's even businesses that are it'll be owned by Asians and they'll hire undocumented Hispanics. But they're not hiring Americans. That should not be legal. And you can't do that in every country. And so this idea that we should just take everybody forever and nobody here needs help. Everybody here, we're good, right? You know what I'm saying? That's disrespectful. And it's disrespectful not to listen to what people are saying. The Afro-American opinion and voice has been silenced on this. And if you don't believe me, take a good look at the links that I post below on this YouTube video, okay? Take a good look at it. And also, make sure you follow my other YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. The Body Scientist 81. Make sure you follow it. Make sure you go look at some of the videos that I've already done because you will learn a whole lot, I promise. And let me know, like, any other health questions and things you would like for me to address on that page. But let's think more critically. And to the people who are immigrants or children of immigrants, because like I love people, I love the diversity. You know, New York is great because it's diverse. But please have respect. And please listen to another perspective and stop trying to project onto us that immigration has absolutely no effect. All these illegal immigrants and millions of immigrants has absolutely no effect on us. And they keep pushing it down our throat. And if we say anything else, they act like we're lying and we're being xenophobic. That's not fair. Because if Afro-Americans were moving to another country by the freaking millions, or Americans, you could say, Americans, Afro-Americans, whatever. If we were moving to the Caribbean and to Africa by the freaking millions and owning whole neighborhoods, opening up tons of businesses, not even fucking with the people who are from there, not hiring them at all, and talking shit about them and looking down and because I can talk shit about your country too. There's no country that you can't talk shit about. Every country got some fucked up shit, trust me. So I can talk shit about your country too. Oh. Sorry, okay. Somebody called me on, I think that was a delivery. Okay. So yes, I just don't like that just ignoring the facts and trying to, the Afro-American voice has constantly been considered unimportant and silenced. So when people think about Americans, they're thinking white people, not understanding that there's a whole lot of Afro-Americans. So now my camera's acting weird. So hold on a minute. Let me close this. My camera's acting weird. Hold on. And let me close this out. Okay. And my computer's about to die. But I think you guys caught my drift. I think you got the point. I'm gonna stop. It's almost been 40 minutes, so I'm gonna stop talking. Check out my other links below. I hope this video was understood and well received. If it has sparked something in your mind and you learned something, please share it, because sharing is caring. And yeah, have a good day, people. Okay, my name is Makeda Valletta. Make sure you follow me on IG and YouTube. And peace out. Bye.